All right, and here we go. Another round of movie mania for you guys with your good friend Pozzible here, and I'm here with Joe.
Hello.
And Bucky.
Why do I get last billing?
What? Well, if somebody else were here, you'd be middle billing. Isn't that better?
Hey, I didn't even get to do my bump bump.
It's usually Pozzible, Bucky, Joe.
And I don't know. I just feel it was random this time.
There's no random. You can't have random. Random doesn't work.
It just did.
So I work with four guys named Random?
All right, but today we're here to talk about the state of the movies. Every once in a while, we want to look back on what's been happening, look forward at what's coming up, and give you a better idea of what's happening in movie theaters and in the movie industry in general. Let's start with the one topic. I've brought this up before, but now we're going to go into bigger detail about the golden age of superhero movies. You know, Bucky and I have had a long discussion about what really makes a good movie. Even Joe has contributed. But there's one thing that it doesn't matter what the movie is, as long as the movie brings in a lot of bank, the studios will continue to get behind it, you know? And that's what they look for. Because let's face it, Hollywood ultimately is run by bean counters, okay? They're run by people who probably don't even watch movies, but they love investing in movies. They love seeing a movie that they put in $200 million to make actually make, $1 billion. Like Iron Man 3 did. And stuff like that.
$1 billion mark?
Yeah, worldwide.
Oh, worldwide.
Yeah. And you know what? This is another thing that people need to understand. This is something that's actually been hurting, I think, the American movie audience, is the fact that the foreign movie audience has really taken off. Okay, it's becoming a big, big thing. Now, here's the issue. One, it doesn't translate very well. Okay, so you send over a movie and you have people talking. Those discussions are going to be reworded into something pretty horrible. So, but they love the special effects. They love the flying around. They love the shooting. They love the explosions. They love stuff like that. So that's why some of the movies that bomb here, like, say, Resident Evil, if you ever wondered how could they make so many sequels when they bomb over in America, well, they take off overseas, okay? And that's been the big secret there. But let's face it, we're in the golden age of superhero movies. Is that not true, guys?
Well, it depends what you mean by golden age. Are you saying that the movies are actually going to just get better?
You know what? Yes. Yes, I mean, let's face it, where would you put the beginning of the golden age? I actually started with Spider-Man 1 myself.
The one with Nicholas Hammond?
No, the one with Tobey Maguire. The first Spider-Man movie by Sam Raimi.
Well, it wasn't the first Spider-Man movie, but it's the first one by Sam Raimi.
Yeah, it's the first one by Sam Raimi. I was going to say Sam Raimi didn't make any other Spider-Man movies. But the thing is, when you think about it, that movie broke big time at the box office. Now, they had some other ones. Batman did very good. The first Supermans did very good. But nothing to really usher in a golden age where every single property that has the name superhero attached to it has to be made now, It brings me to another type of... One thing that's trying to break into this, it's tween books, Books like Twilight, The Host. They are trying to break through. Now, Hunger Games and Twilight have been doing very well at the box office. And every once in a while, they try to make this other movie. But the other movie just doesn't have it. What was that one that came out recently where this girl, she was about to turn...
Beautiful Creatures?
Beautiful Creatures, thank you. I never saw it. Didn't do too well at the box office. Neither did The Host. Nothing is bulletproof, okay? Nothing's going to be a surefire. I mean, believe me, if Hollywood knew 100% what to make every time, then they would make those movies. And then we get tired of them, and then they would just move on to something else.
And they'd stop making After Earth.
Well, yeah. You think they would at least learn that lesson. I did not care for that movie. I actually saw it. Bucky hasn't seen it yet.
I'm not going to.
Well, Bucky should see at least once.
No.
Bucky should at least try.
No.
Well, Bucky should consider.
No.
Bucky should.
No.
Bucky.
No.
Maybe. If. Okay. But
where's your parliament?
Yeah, Joe, where were you?
Oh, I was. I don't remember where I was.
But I mean, here's my question: are we reaching the peak with the superhero movies?
No way.
Do you think they can still get better with like Avengers 2 and Justice League and stuff like that?
I think they need to keep pumping out superhero movies, even the minor superheroes. As long as you get a good movie.
Take the time to do it right.
Yeah.
Get a good script.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because I'm sure all of us that saw the Green Lantern movie know that it could have been a lot better.
I didn't mind it, but it could have been better.
There were scenes where you could tell the movie was rushed.
Yes. The biggest scene for me was when Sinestro was appealing to the council to let him make the yellow ring, and all of a sudden Ryan Reynolds show up. How did he know to show up? Was there like a newsletter? You know, was this on Green Lantern News? Sinestro seeks to make the yellow ring. And it's like, you know, it's like, how did he know to be there? What happened, you know?
Right place at the right time.
No, he just showed up like he knew what was happening. And it's like, how did he know about all this stuff? So it was just crazy. That was sad because I have been dying for a Green Lantern movie. I have been wishing for it since the beginning of this millennia. And I was thinking, you know, after movies like The Matrix and, you know, The Mummy, it's like now is the time. We have the technology. Let's make these movies. And then they make the movies. And they get away from the fundamentals. You've got the special effects, but are you forgetting proper story, proper format, proper character development, you know, stuff like that?
I like a Green Lantern Corps movie.
That it was
with John Stewart, and not the actor, but the character, Guy Gardner, Kyle Rayner. Get the whole Green Lantern Corps and just focus on not just one guy like Hal Jordan, but many Green Lanterns.
You know, Green Lanterns need to have better respect in the movie industry for something like that. I mean, if you want something like that, the first Green Lantern should have really taken off. Instead, it bombed. And that's why, I mean, let's face it, that's one thing that's great about the superhero, this golden age. There will be bombs. They're going to make more superhero movies than we can make a stick at, than we can shake a stick at. Right. And, but you know what? There's not enough to buck this trend yet. And I was just wondering, what is it going to really take to buck the trend? Any opinions on that? To be honest, I just hope they never do. Because I want them to keep making these movies, and I want them to keep growing in the movie industry. You know, I don't know if you guys heard yet, but Steven Spielberg and George Lucas recently came out saying that there's going to be an implosion. Because studios are going to get used to making these huge, big budget movies, and suddenly no one sees them, or not enough people see them. So the whole thing implodes, you know? You just go bankrupt because you put all your money in on this one movie, you know? And you're expecting a big return. It happens. Sometimes it doesn't. You know, but that's all I have to say about the golden age of superhero movies. Any other opinions?
Nope.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Okay, moving on. You know, from the high to the low, from movies that are going to be 100,000, 200,000 a piece, to movies that are just 200,000, 200 million, 100 million, to movies that are not even 5 million. You know, movies that are too cheap to fail. Movies like The Purge, which Bucky saw.
Yes, I did.
Good or bad?
Oh gosh,
Very brief. Go ahead, just to say.
I wanted to like it. I really did, but I ended up giving it a D+. That's the best rating I could give it.
Now, you did write a full review on this.
Yes, I did, and it's available on UnleashTheRobots.com.
Yes, look that up to see his full review. That's what I'm really hearing. But you know what? Let me tell you something about the problem with The Purge. Okay. Maybe it was a bad movie, but it cost only $5 million to make. And when you make a movie like that and it makes $50 million, that's 10 times the budget right there. So yes.
So you're calling that a good movie then?
No. But I am saying it's a movie that studios want. Because studios want a movie that bring in the bite. That's why they're making a sequel to The Purge.
That's why they're making another Paranormal Activity movie. Because the first one was $15,000. That was the budget of the first movie.
It wasn't worth it. Yeah, let's put baby powder down to catch the demon. You know what's funny? I have seen
your reaction.
So many parodies of this. The Haunted House by the Wayans Brothers. The Supernatural Activity. 30 Days of Night. 30 Nights of the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo during Paranormal Activity, blah, 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 okay? The point that I'm trying to make is that there's one scene everyone does, and that is they all put the baby powder down on the floor. It is the stupidest thing ever in movie history, and they can't help but make fun of that. But, you know, this is one thing that hurts movies. I mean, people are always talking about how Hollywood's not original, how they make the same movies over and over again, the superhero movies, blah, blah, blah. But then you have movies like this. I think these do more damage to movies than those movies do. You know, if anything, they're a reason not to see a certain movie. But you get a niche like this, and it's timing. Do you know why The Purge really succeeded ultimately? Because it was horror. And when was the last time a horror movie even came out? You know? It's like been what, 3 months? 4 months?
Good point.
You know? So the horror people have been, hungry for a horror movie. Here comes The Purge. Oh wait, Evil Dead came out like in, I think, April. Or May. No, April. So it's been 2 months. So yeah, these people have been desperate for a movie. They finally release a movie. And, they just throw something together, It reminds me of Roger Corman, and his movies. Because let's face it, he made some movies we liked. I liked Little Shop of Horrors, the original one, the black and white version with Jack Nicholson.
I don't think I ever saw that one. I saw the Rick Moranis one.
I've seen bits and pieces of the Rick Moranis one.
Have not seen the Rick Moranis one. Now, Joe, what's your favorite Roger Corman?
Have no idea.
Oh, who likes the Death Race? No, that's you, Bucky.
Yes, I like the original Death Race 2000.
It was funny, and you know what? I felt it had a better idea, because the other one is just a straightforward race where people die.
Right, that was Death Race. Not to be confused, 2 different movies.
But Death Race is technically the remake of Death Race 2000, which spawned several sequels, but let's face it, these people treated it like a wrestling competition. They got dressed up.
Yeah.
And who was in it?
The Death Race or Death Race 2000?
Death Race 2000, who made one of his first appearances in movies.
Sylvester Stallone.
Sylvester Stallone was in it, exactly. And I mean, those are people who specialize in very cheap movies, okay? But you know what? Here's the thing. Everyone keeps pining for original ideas. This is where it's going to come from. It's not going to come from Hollywood. Hollywood does not want to risk it. They shouldn't have to risk their money to make a quote-unquote original film. There's too much risk involved to just say, yeah, let's go for it. You gotta give it to the indie people. You gotta have somebody who's willing to put his money on the line and say, let's go for it, and that's how that happens. Any other opinions on movies that are too cheap to fail? Joe, what is the cheapest movie you ever saw, would you say?
Probably Clerks.
Clerks, yes, the rise of Kevin Smith.
Yes,
he's
good movie.
He's making the third one. He says it's gonna be his last movie.
That's kind of sad.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I like the guy, but he had such a fall from grace after Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. I haven't really liked any of his things since then. But then again, nothing is up to that caliber. That movie was just hysterical.
Oh yeah,
and very well done. But everything else just seems bland. It just wasn't funny, And he's a funny guy. He's a comedian. I wish him well. I hope Clerks 3 changes his mind. That the reception changes his mind. Bucky, cheapest movie you ever saw?
That I ever saw?
That you can remember, I should say.
Well, I do remember reading an article about a movie that was filmed in Arizona.
Okay.
I can't remember which highway it was on. It was called like Zizzy Road or something like that.
Okay.
Where...
Is it like the Highway to Hell or something like that?
No, the actual title was called like Zizzy Road.
Okay.
And
you saw this movie?
No, I didn't. That's what I'm saying. It's an article I read.
Right.
Where I can't remember how much it cost to make, but when it was released in one theater and one person saw it.
I believe it.
And
that's what happens when you have no marketing.
So that's a $6 profit.
Yeah. No, that's a $6 net. I mean, only if it was free to make.
So,
the cheapest movie I ever saw was called.
Now, when you say cheapest, do you mean cheapest looking movie or just?
Oh, the lowest budget. Like the movie I'm about to say was $1,500. That's right, $1,500. I saw it at Phoenix Comic Con. It was called Killer in Sight. Basically, Kenny Colt, who's a struggling filmmaker, he filmed it inside a Gilbert home with a bunch of his friends, and it was actually a good story. You have 5 people who show up. And these 5 people are all assassins, so they start killing each other. And they start They're killing each other one by one. Now, don't get me wrong. This is a movie that could have been a lot better. Could have been filmed better, had better audio. The story could have tweaked a little bit better. But that being said, for a cheap budget and everything, it was still worthy.
I will say, now that I'm thinking about it, movies that I have seen, I do not know what the budget is, but one of the cheapest looking movies I've seen was called I Was a Teenage Zombie.
Oh, I've heard of that one. I want to see that one. I mean, that's like a 1950s one, isn't it, right? 1960s? Black and white?
1980s, actually.
Oh, okay.
I mean, last time I saw it was on VHS.
Yes.
And for those of you that don't know what that is, that's video...
VHS.
Oh, gosh, what does VHS even stand for? Haven't gone there in a long time.
Oh, my gosh, I don't even remember anymore.
Right.
Yeah, I don't either. I still have some VHSs.
Next up, recent Star Wars news. You know,
Carrie Fisher's getting trained.
Carrie Fisher's getting trained. They're
Han
gonna
shot first.
They're going to shoot it.
The only way to watch it.
They're going to shoot it in London because the whole thing was done in London. And you know, J.J. Abrams, that's kind of rough for him because he.
London. I thought, what about happening to Tatooine?
You know,
That's in Tunisia.
yeah. And so, I mean, this is one thing that worries me. One thing I liked about the first Star Wars was the first Star Wars was done on location.
In Tunisia.
Yeah, and so...
Yeah, it wasn't actually... Because it was in
Right.
Tunisia. It wasn't on
So
Tatooine.
it gives you a nice feel when you're actually on location as opposed to being in a studio.
Yeah, in a stage.
You know?
On a sound stage.
There's something intuitively that you can tell the difference. And, you know, there's still so much... It's all happening behind the scenes. The only person who really knows what's happening, and he is saying positive things about this, is George Lucas. He's been talking with J.J. Abrams. He's proud that J.J. Abrams took over. He says J.J. Abrams really understands the mythology and everything. Considering what J.J. Abrams did for Star Trek, I am looking for what he'll do with Star Wars.
Yeah, I can't imagine that. I still wonder what the plot's going to be.
Probably going to be like a wormhole opens up and some people from the future come into the past. And
Nah, I think he's going to go for future.
Total future?
I think we're going to be introduced to Jar Jar Binks' son.
I don't think it's going to go that far.
More likely it'll be a grand.
Yeah.
I don't know how long Gungans live for. But, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's
His son, Jib Jib.
It's going to be its own story. Now, of course, these stories have got to be canon. That's very important to the Star Wars universe. Just to give you guys one little heads up, if you ever want to see a movie that's not canon, and I said this before, but this is really cool, Highlander. The Highlander movies. Do not watch them. Unless you want to be completely confused and wonder what the hell is going on, watch them. Because basically they're not canon, you know? In the first one, Connor McLeod, played by Christopher Lambert. Actually, I think it's Lambert.
Yeah, so
because
it's French.
Yeah.
It's
Christopher Lambert, he kills the last guy, so he's the one. And then they came up with the TV series. And in the TV series, they're like, oh yeah, he did kill the guy, but he's not the one. The war still goes on. And so, but because the TV series was so popular, they made a second. No, before the TV series, they made a second one. And if you ever want to talk about confusing, the first one to the second one, no sense whatsoever. The only thing that makes sense is that Connor is older, okay? Now, here's the funny part. The prophecy in Highlander is that if the wrong guy becomes the one, then the world will be placed in will be brought under darkness, okay? And that's what happens with Connor being in charge. He puts the world under darkness. But he's able to save it ultimately. Oh, spoiler alert, by the way.
No point in me seeing it now.
Yeah. But then comes the third one, and the third one had nothing to do with the first two. And then came the fourth one, which had nothing to do with the first three. So, and they're not even good stories standalone. It's just, it's a tragedy. It really is
I
tragedy.
just wished I had my notebook with me because I wrote the name down from Phoenix Comic Con. Remember, there's that guy that you got to put all your Star Wars stuff through if you want to write a story or something.
Yes.
And I have his name written down somewhere, but I don't.
Exactly.
It's in my Comic Con.
We learned that from Timothy Zahn.
He brought it up again
yeah.
at Phoenix Comic Con.
Yeah. Making sure that everything stays kosher, that everything is the same.
Everything has to pass by this guy
Yeah.
to keep the canonity.
Now, why did they start that show?
Canonity?
Canonity, yes, to keep the canonness of it.
I didn't know.
We are inventing new words every day here on my show. But no,
Somebody call Webster. The dictionary.
Now,
not the-
Joe.
For those of you listening, if you feel your IQ points drop,
It's his fault.
That's Bucky. Because he doesn't invent words like we do. He doesn't have the inventedness of it.
Oh my
So,
God.
now, Joe,
Yeah.
for the Star Wars geeks out there, who was the character that prompted this guy to get his job? To be the guy that always makes sure that everything is canon?
It was not Waylon Jennings.
Yeah.
My alarm just went off.
Yes, it was...
I forgot.
Boba Fett.
Boba Fett.
Because remember, he dies in the.
Right, but he comes back.
He crawls out. But
so technically, he didn't die.
Yeah, technically, it's his origin. It's not what happens at his end. It's his beginning that people complain about.
Yeah,
because
Jeremy Bullock brought that up.
Yeah,
he played Boba Fett in the original trilogy.
Right. So he knew Boba Fett's origin, and then they came out with Episode 1, and what do? They changed the origin.
It was actually Episode 2 where we first meet Boba Fett.
Oh, that's right.
He was an unaltered clone of Jango Fett.
A little brat.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, let's face it. Let me tell you something. There's one thing you don't want to hear in a space battle. When you're chasing someone trying to shoot them, it's, there he is, Dad, there he is. It's like, come on, brat. All right. Next up, the next trend. Let's look to the future now. Superhero movies will one day go the direction of cop shows, dance shows, rom-coms.
We don't have music in them?
No, they're going to one day just not be as popular, They're going to go back to, the days of making...
Oh, I thought you meant that dance shows would become movies.
No. Well, dance shows do become movies, but guess what? Nobody watches them. I saw Step It Up 3. Don't ask me why. It was painful.
Why?
It was painful. And you know what's worse? My mom and my sister, of course, they love that. They watch things like So You Think You Can Dance and Dancing with the Stars. And or why is it called Dancing with the Stars? These people are not celebrities, okay? I'm sorry.
Some of them are.
Someplace else, yeah, but anyway.
I disagree with you on that one, though.
But I mean, do we see anything on the horizon? Anything? I mean, obviously, one thing we can talk about, though I have to admit we're getting too old to enjoy these kind of movies. Tween movies,
I ain't never too old.
There's always some action, but there's a lot of romance, and it's just a bunch of kids running around. Twilight, Hunger Games, Well,
in Hunger Games, they were running around for a reason.
Have you seen any of the other movies yet? I still have to see Battle Royale. And,
Battle Royale?
Battle Royale, I mean, basically, if you ever see it, it's an earlier movie, and people say it's like, Hunger Games takes from it, because it's the same idea. Japanese kids are thrown into this room, or to this jungle area where they have to hunt each other. The idea of kids hunting kids, sadly, is not as new as people make it out to be. But let's face it, when we first saw Hunger Games, what were we thinking? I was thinking, great, this is a teenage version of Running Man. The idea of people being assigned to hunt other people is nothing new.
Right.
I will admit, Catching Fire looks like it has promise. I like the idea that, they know where they stand with her, and they know the best thing that they can do for her is let the people kill her, ruin her image. Let the people understand that she is on their side, okay? The government side. So, I think it has promise. At least the same director is not coming back, so there won't be any way too close close-ups where I'm counting people's teeth as they talk. Okay.
Is there anything else you'd like to complain about?
Well, my butt itches a little bit, but that's either here nor there. Okay.
That's a great image for the people listening.
Luckily, this is radio, so they don't know what he looks like.
Yeah. Okay. But no, I mean, Bucky, do you see anything on the horizon? I mean, something else popping up that's gonna take over the current trends of movies?
Until we get 4D movies, I don't see anything, no.
Joe.
Not really.
Any genres or for me, one movie that I would like to see come back in its original form, well, almost original form, spy movies. I want good old fashioned spy movies with gadgets and chases and women and adventure and stuff like that. You know what would be a great trend?
Women in prison flicks.
Italian.
Oh yes. Okay, I'm not going to argue there, but no, even better would be but this counts along with superhero. That's the problem. Even Star Wars would be considered superhero. Video game.
They try them, but they never work.
I'll tell you one thing.
You're telling you didn't like Super Mario Brothers?
I never saw Super Mario, but I heard him say. I did not mind, however, Blood Rain. The only part about it I minded is it felt like they put everything into that movie.
Well,
they needed to slow it down a little bit.
You know what, Joe? I know what you're saying, but you have to remember, this is the iron law of movies, okay? The iron law of movies says that when you make a movie, you always make the movie with the intention that this is the only movie you can make, All right? Think about X-Men First Class. Deep, deep down, these guys did not want to put Xavier in a wheelchair after the first movie when so many other movies showed him walking around. Okay?
Yeah, but the problem is, it's like with Blood Rain, it seemed like they finished up a plot and then they went to another plot. You know, it felt like they just tried to put too much plot in the movie. They should have stuck with a simpler plot and just brought out, because there's 2 games that it was based off of.
Right.
And it was like, you know, you should pick one or the other if you're going to focus on a game.
Right.
It felt like they tried to take both games and put them into one movie, and it's just
it didn't work.
It just felt too congested.
Okay. Bucky, you never saw Blood Rain, did you?
No, I did not.
You know, if we ever rented like Super Mario Brothers, would you guys watch it?
I don't know.
But I mean, yeah, those movies I hope will come around because I like those movies. Now, one thing I will say, one thing we didn't talk about, they're planning on making an Uncharted, okay? And I gave 2 options, but I didn't talk about option number 3, okay? Option number 1 is you make the same story as the video game, all right? Almost exact same story, maybe change a few things here for movie purposes, but you're making a movie about a guy who's trying to capture Drake's fortune, right? Then you make a whole new story, which is what a lot of people wanted. You know, if you're going to do Nathan Drake's story, give us a different story altogether, because we've already seen Drake's fortune, we've already seen Drake's deception, and whatever, and Among Thieves. Well, we haven't seen it; we've played them, you know. But the one thing you do not do, and I need to stress this very strongly, because I know everyone in Hollywood listens to this podcast and does exactly as I say.
The one thing you don't do, cast Martin Lawrence as Nathan Drake.
That's one thing.
Okay.
But the other thing you don't do is you don't make a movie that's 1/4 the original story and 3/4 something else. You know?
Why not do it like they do the Star Wars stuff? Where you've got one game that ties into another game, which ties into another game. Make a movie that ties into the games, but it's its own story. It's canon with the games.
Right.
Remember, in Star Wars, everything is canon. The Force Unleashed video games tie into the movies between Episode 3 and Episode 4.
Right.
They did it that way. We'll do something like that with video game movies. They also tie into the books as well.
Right.
So, I think that would be kind of cool. With you get Uncharted. We've all played the game. I've only ever beaten Uncharted 3, but I've gotten the basic story of 1 and 2.
Okay.
Just with the movie, don't have it to take place to do anything with the games. Maybe you can revisit maybe a scene in the game or something, like the location, or reference it, but ultimately have it be its own story, just tying into the games with the characters of Nathan Drake. And who was the guy? Was it Scully?
Sully.
That's right.
Sullivan.
And then the girl.
The next, last year's
Chloe.
model, Chloe. No, Chloe was the new one. I think it's Ellie.
It was.
Chloe. Look it up on your computer real quick. One thing I do want to talk about, and this is this is our next discussion, which is kind of a now stop that, okay? Bucky, I want your input on this, because this is something you like. However, I'm wondering if it's starting to get old. People are refilming and like putting a new spin on classic scenes, okay? In the 80s, it was iconic to see Spock sacrifice himself. And they did the hands on the glass type of thing and all that. But in Star Trek Into the Darkness, it didn't have the same vibe. You know? Your opinion.
Well, remember, I've only seen 2 Star Trek movies before the reboot.
Ah, okay.
And I didn't see the one where Spock died, so...
You never saw Wrath of Khan?
No, I did not.
Yeah. But what are you thinking about, you know, they're doing these movies, and they're somewhat reboots or rehashes, and they're taking iconic scenes and they're returning. Like, didn't they do that in Superman, Man of Steel? They took scenes that were in the original Superman movies and they're putting them back.
They did that in Superman Returns.
Superman Returns, like Joe says, Joe thinks that Superman Returns was just such a rehash. Why make it?
Yeah, I had Superman Returns, but I ended up watching it for one time for, like a minute or two, and I was just like, well, why don't I just go watch the old Christopher Reeve ones? The movies, the music's there, it's all the same. So I'm like, I think Christopher Reeve ones were much better.
Oh yeah, I mean, these were done 30 years ago now, so. And that just goes to show, we had a lot going for us back then. With that said, I guess the one movie we can really pick on more than anything else, it is Total Recall. Talk about a Cliff Notes version of a classic. They just redid the whole movie, and they just took out all the fun, interesting parts,
They took out the philosophical.
Yeah, the philosophical.
Thank you. I could never pronounce that.
That's okay.
Word. And yeah, because it was like at the end of the Arnold Schwarzenegger one, was he in recall or was he alive on Mars?
Right.
They left that ambiguous as to what actually happened.
In this one, they made it pretty darn clear.
Yes, they did.
And that was a big mistake on their part. They could have had something there, but you know what? I wish they would have just done something, anything that would have been completely different.
Right.
Or at least jazz it up.
Well, I'm positive at least they had Jessica Biel in the movie.
The fight scene was iconic between her and the British chick.
Kate Beckinsale.
Kate Beckinsale. That was the... You know what?
As far as the fresh and different, I'm going to go back a few years, and this is just something for me personally. I saw the reboot of Nightmare on Elm Street.
Okay.
And don't get me wrong, I was curious about it because I wanted to see what they would do. And I thought I was going to get something new and different because in the movie, they brought up the possibility that Freddy Krueger had been innocent of the crimes he was,
committed.
The possibility, and I thought that would be an interesting spin if all the movies we saw beforehand were wrong, because he actually was innocent.
That would have been a good
it would have been interesting, but no, they didn't do that. Turned out it was a false lead type of thing.
Yeah. Did you ever see Freddy's Nightmares, the TV show?
No.
I actually saw those, and they were actually pretty good. They weren't as scary as the movies were, because let's face it, it is television. They had a very scary moment. They changed a lot of things. It wasn't canon.
Hey, Joe. Make a wish.
But the one thing that I thought interesting was that it was just the idea that they could take that world and move it into the television world. That is one thing, because you know what?
Speaking of TV, also interrupt. I wouldn't mind having a TV show become a movie, but it has to be the right TV show. For those of us that remember the 80s, one TV show I think would be perfect for a movie, Tales from the Dark Side.
That was a movie. They did make a movie of that.
Right, well I'm saying make another one.
Yeah. A reboot. Yeah, a reboot as a movie. Yeah.
Right.
You know what's so funny? Back to Phoenix Comic-Con and Kenny Colt, he did do something that was like a funny version of that, which was called Last Call. I don't know what's that called when you have black and white, but every once in a while something will be in color. Like the whole movie's in black and white, but he pulls out an envelope and it's a yellow envelope.
Right, I gotcha.
And that was very Tales of the Dark Side-ish. Tales for the Dark Side, Monsters, a lot of Twilight Zone wannabes, and that brings up an interesting movie. Do you know who's been working on this movie for a long time?
What movie?
Twilight Zone. Leonardo DiCaprio has been trying to produce this movie for the longest time. Now, they of course made a Twilight Zone movie. They've been trying to redo the series over and over again. They just can't recapture the magic that the original one had. Now, there were good ones in the 80s.
There were a few. I remember a few.
The 80s had some real good ones. What's funny about the 80s one is that they had some real short ones. Like, they had Twilight Zones that were only like 5 minutes long, the whole story.
Really? I remember the ones that were an hour long.
Oh, yes. Well, those were the original Twilight Zones, though. That's, Rod Serling, black and white.
No, I'm talking about color ones from the 80s that were an hour
long? I want to look those up. Yeah, I got to find those. But, Joe, did you ever find out that girl's name?
Oh, it was Elena.
Elena, yes. You know what's funny is that they always kind of confused their relationship on Uncharted. Like, and in the first one, they just met. You get a sense that they like each other. In the second one, you get a chance that they're really falling for each other. Even though, if they would have just changed Chloe a little bit, made her a little bit nicer, that really could have taken off between them. I liked Chloe a lot.
I like Chloe. Chloe was cool.
And then, of course, there was Elena. I think they gave the impression that they were either engaged or they were actually married in the third one, because now they were wearing rings, at least going steady. But yeah, I mean, who knows what's going to come out in the near future? Who knows what Hollywood has planned for us? I hope it's always bigger and better. It's always different, and they're always trying. Give them a chance. You might like it, and eventually something's going to come out that pleases everybody. With that said, guys, is there any other comments to be made about the state of the movies happening right now?
No.
Joe? Thanks for that wonderful commentary, Bucky.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Joe?
No.
All right, well, guys, we'll see you at the theaters. Until then, take care of yourselves.
Goodbye.
Have a good night.